What did you send? They won't even let me explain. That was my little sister, screaming. For 6 years, my family had kept silent while Kayla used my name, opening credit cards and taking out a student loan, with my mother watching, then helping. 2 weeks earlier, my mother had called me cold, selfish, not because I refused money, not because I skipped a birthday. She called me those things because I would not hire my sister, the same sister who had dragged my credit score from 780 to 540 and cost me 2 promotion cycles. My mother found out 2 months after the first card. 3 years later, she forged my name on a $28,000 loan. My father saw the envelopes later. He looked away. I did not argue at that dinner. I did not defend. I opened my laptop that night. I forwarded one email. 2 weeks later, my sister screamed the words I had spent 2 years preparing to hear. If your chest is already tight, please like and subscribe. It tells YouTube these stories need to be told. Drop your city and local time in the comments. I love knowing where you're listening from. I'm Chloe, 29, and this is what 6 years of my family's silence cost me. Let's go back to June 2017, when I was 21, and I still believed my name belonged only to me. The paper on the desk had my name on it in a font I did not recognize. Director of Growth. Northlink. Effective immediately. It was a Wednesday afternoon in the middle of March, and the office was on the 42nd floor of a glass building 3 blocks from Bryant Park. Someone had ordered champagne into the conference room across from my desk. Ryan Delacroix, my VP, had a tie loose around his neck and a card in his hand. He said something kind. I nodded, and I smiled, and I signed the letter on the last line, and everyone clapped, and my hand did not shake in front of them. But when I got back to my desk, I looked at the letter for a long moment. I read the line that said, "Background check cleared, credit review satisfactory." I read that line 4 times because I had waited 2 years for a paper to say those words about me. 2 years I had not talked about. 2 years I had explained to no one at that office. 5 weeks later, on a Tuesday in the 3rd week of April, my phone lit up. It was my mother. The message said, in the flat tone she used for grocery lists, "So proud. Booked flights for tomorrow. Whole family coming down to celebrate. Kayla, too. Dinner your place. 7. I read it twice. Then I closed the message. Then I stood at my window and watched the traffic on 6th Avenue and felt in my chest a very old cold begin to rise, because I knew what she was flying to New York for, and it was not champagne. They came the next evening, 6:50, not 7. My mother always liked to catch me before I was ready. Marion, Kevin, Kayla. My mother stepped into my apartment in a coat too warm for April and said the coat was a lot for New York. But you know I don't trust the weather here. She smiled at my ceiling molding. She smiled at my range. She did not smile at me. My father set a paper grocery bag on the counter. It had a bottle of red wine in it that he had bought at the airport, and I know because the price tag was still on the neck. My sister sat on the arm of my couch and did not put her purse down. Kayla was 25 that spring, and she was thin in the way that comes from skipping meals to feel superior. She wore a gray sweatshirt that said the name of a college she had not finished. She scrolled her phone. I asked how the flight was. My mother said, "Fine, but why do they seat us all separately when we bought together, do you know?" I said I didn't. I plated the food, roast chicken, small potatoes, a green salad. I set 4 places. My sister looked up from her phone for the first time. "Chloe," she said, "can you get me into Northlink?" I set my knife down on the edge of the plate. "No," I said. Marion stood. She did not knock her chair over. That would have been theater. She stood the way you stand at a school board meeting when you have decided the other parents need to hear you. "You are her sister," she said. "She has been out of work for 6 months. You have a job, she doesn't. You know what she needs, and you sit here and pretend you don't." Kayla cried into her phone. Kevin stared into his lap. "You are cold, Chloe," my mother said. "You are selfish. Your grandmother is not well. The family is unstable. And you sleep well at night." I did not answer. I looked at my father. My father did not look up. I picked up the chicken plate and carried it to the kitchen. And I scraped it into a bowl. And I put the bowl in the refrigerator. And I closed the refrigerator door with my hand flat against it because I could not slam. And I would not slam. They left 20 minutes later. My mother's coat over her arm. My father's paper bag still on my counter with the wine untouched. When the elevator door closed, I sat on the kitchen floor with my back against the cabinet. I did not cry. I opened my laptop. I opened the folder I had not opened since I sealed the final packet in December. The name of the folder was M. 6 years. I was 8 the first time I heard the sentence. I had saved allowance for 4 months to buy a paperback of A Wrinkle in Time from the Barnes & Noble in Poughkeepsie. $6 and change. I paid at the register with my own quarters, and I walked out feeling 10 feet tall. My little sister was 4. She wanted my book. She reached for it in the back seat of the station wagon, and she tore 3 pages before my father finished the turn out of the parking lot. I did not scream. I said, "Kayla!" My mother turned in the passenger seat and looked at me and said, in a voice like a passing bus, "You are the older one, Chloe. You were born as the older one. That means you give." My father laughed once and said, "She's just a baby, honey. Give her the book." I gave her the book. I watched her tear the rest of it and drop the pieces on the floor mat, and I looked out the window at the corn coming out of the flat fields on Route 9, and I did not cry. I understood that day at 8 a rule. The rule was what you had you were supposed to hand over, because being older meant owing. I did not know then that the rule would grow, that it would slide off a book and onto my report cards, off my report cards and onto my scholarship, off my scholarship and onto my Social Security number. I was 17 when the letter came from Cornell. I opened it standing at the kitchen counter with the mail in one hand and the string of the porch light in the other, because my mother had asked me to reach up and unhook it. Full ride, 4 years, books included. I put the letter on the counter and I said, "Mom." My mother read it. She read it twice. Then she looked at me, and her face did a thing I had never seen it do before. It flickered. "Ithaca," she said, "is far." I said, "It's 4 hours." She said, "You could go to Marist. Marist has business. Marist is here. I said, "Full ride, Mom." "Cornell, full ride." She folded the letter carefully. She placed it on top of the microwave. She said, "Aunt Marge's daughter went to Marist. Now she is head nurse at Northern Duchess, steady, home for holidays. Her mother sees her every Sunday." She walked past me into the living room. I stood at the counter for a while. Then I picked the letter back up. That night, I heard her through the wall, talking to my father in the low voice they used when they thought I could not hear. "If she goes so far," my mother said, "who will your little one have to lean on?" My father said nothing. I understood the second rule that night. The second rule was, what you built for her. I was 21 in June of 2017, the summer I went home after junior year at Cornell. I had just finished finals. I stayed at the house in Poughkeepsie for 4 days before heading back to Ithaca for summer work. The following May, after graduation, I would accept an analyst offer from Northlink and move to New York. Kayla was 17. She had grown tall very fast. She wore an oversized hoodie that had first belonged to me, and her hair fell into her eyes whenever she looked down. We were sitting on the back porch on a June night. Fireflies. My mother inside on the phone with Aunt Marge. My father still at the shop. Kayla said, "Chloe, do you have your social memorized?" I laughed. "No." "Where do you keep it?" I did not think about it. "In Dad's office, bottom drawer of the file cabinet, green folder with my school stuff." She nodded and pushed her hair behind her ear. I remember the porch light. I remember moths striking it. I remember that after she nodded, she did not look at me. She looked out at the yard. 2 days later, she took the card. The first Chase Freedom account opened later that month using my name and the Elmwood Drive address. I did not know any of that then. The next morning, I packed. I hugged my mother on the porch. I hugged my father at the shop. Kayla did not come downstairs. I got on the train at Poughkeepsie Station. I opened a book. I still came home sometimes after that. Brief holidays, careful visits, enough to keep everyone calling us a family. I did not know the card was gone. I did not know Kayla had used it. I did not know my mother would find out 2 months later and decide to say nothing. I still remember the way she asked me. I still remember I answered. 2021, I was 25 in Manhattan. I had scraped together a down deposit on a small 1-bedroom in Turtle Bay. 3rd floor walk-up, old radiator, rent stabilized. I filled out the credit form at the leasing office and slid it across the counter to a man in a green sweater who looked at his screen for a long time. He looked at his screen. He looked at me. He looked at his screen again. Then he said gently, "Ms. Whitaker, your score is 620. We are going to need a co-signer." I laughed. I said, "That's not right. My score was 780 last year." He turned the monitor around. He showed me the report. He pointed to 3 hard inquiries I did not remember. He pointed to a Chase credit card. Balance $6,200. Address of record, 47 Elmwood Drive, Poughkeepsie. The address of the house I grew up in. I called Chase from the sidewalk. I read them my social. They confirmed the account. Open date June 2017. Card Chase Freedom. Address 47 Elmwood Drive. I stood on 2nd Avenue and 53rd Street, and I said to the woman on the phone, "There has to be a mistake. My parents will fix this. She was polite. She said, "Ma'am, that's not something we can do from here. Please contact the primary address." I called my mother that afternoon. My mother said, "Oh, honey, that must be an old thing. Don't worry, I'll ask your dad." I said, "Mom, my score dropped 160 points." She said, "I said I'll ask your dad. Chloe, please." I let it go. That is the sentence I have replayed in my head for 4 years. I let it go. 2022, June. I was 25. I had been at Northlink 4 years, and I was up for senior manager. The head of HR was a woman named Elise, and she asked me into a small room on the 38th floor that had one plant that was dying and a poster that said, "We rise together." She did not sit down. She said, "Chloe, we love you. You know we love you. But your background check came back with conflicting credit reports, and we need to resolve that before we can move to offer." I said, "I'm working on it." She said, "How close are you?" I said, "Get close." She said, "The cycle closes Friday. Can you close it in 10 days?" I said, "Yes." I could not. I went into the bathroom on the 38th floor. I stood in the last stall. I did not scream. I did not cry. I put my forehead against the cool tile behind the tank, and I let the ceramic take the weight of my head. Whitney called me 2 hours later. I did not tell her. I said, "Just tired. Cycle closed. Next round in 6 months." She said, "Chloe, is that true?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Okay, Sushi Friday. I pick." I promised myself that afternoon on the 38th floor that I would fix the credit thing over Christmas at my parents' house. I would sit at the kitchen table with the paperwork, and my mother would help me the way a mother helps. I told myself this for 4 months. I did not know then what I would find at Christmas. Christmas that year was in the house on Elmwood Drive. My mother made the ham. My father brought the tree in from the porch and shook the snow off it in the mudroom. Kayla was 22 and out of school and living in her old bedroom. She wore my old high school sweatshirt. She barely spoke to me. On the second morning I was there, I went to the kitchen for coffee and I saw the mail stack on the table beside the sugar bowl. A Chase envelope addressed to Chloe M. Whitaker, Elmwood Drive. I picked it up. My mother came in through the swinging door with a dish towel over her shoulder. She saw the envelope in my hand. Her face went smooth in the way a lake goes smooth right before a hard wind. "Junk mail, honey," she said. Very light, very light. "They send it to everyone." She took the envelope out of my hand. She walked to the fireplace. She threw the envelope into the fire. She did not look at me while she did it. I looked past her, into the dining room, and my sister was in the doorframe, not moving, watching. She did not look away when I saw her. I said nothing. That night, I could not sleep. I got up at 2 in the morning. I walked in my socks down the hall to my father's office. I opened the bottom drawer of his file cabinet. 3 more Chase envelopes were in that drawer, addressed to me, unopened. I did not open them. I took photographs with my phone. I closed the drawer very quietly. I went back to bed, and I lay in the dark and I stared at the ceiling until the sun came up. That was the moment. That was the morning I stopped believing what my mother said. It was 3 photos and a ceiling. That was all. Before that Christmas, in October 2022, I was 26. The director's slot opened. I had rebuilt my numbers. I had built a case. I had a pitch deck of proof. I sat in the final round, and I answered every question, and I watched the interviewer nod and nod and nod. Elise called me on a Wednesday afternoon. She used my name the way people use names when they are about to tell you they are sorry. "Chloe," she said, "we cannot move the director role forward this cycle. The background reflags again. I know, I am so sorry. Next cycle, Q2 2023, we are keeping the requisition warm for you." I said, "Elise, thank you." I put down the phone, I put my head on my desk. I stayed like that for 6 minutes. I went home that night with the bottle of wine I had bought for myself and a bag of fried chicken I never opened. I sat on the floor of my living room with the bottle between my knees. For 10 minutes, I did not move. The apartment was quiet, except for the radiator clicking behind me. Then I took out my phone and opened the 3 photographs from my father's drawer. A Chase envelope, my name, Elmwood Drive. Another envelope, my name, Elmwood Drive. A third. I looked at them until the words began to blur. "The background flags," I said aloud. No one answered. I opened a notes app. I typed Chase, June 2017, Elmwood Drive. Then I typed Kayla. I stared at her name for a long time. I did not call my mother. I did not call my father. I did not call Whitney. Not yet. I put the phone face down on the floor beside the chicken. I sat there until the wine went warm. Then, because the apartment was empty and no one could hear me, I said the words I could not yet say to another person. "My sister is stealing my life." Till March 2023, I was in the kitchen making coffee at 7 in the morning when my phone chimed with a new email. Subject line, "Payment overdue." Sender, something called Bright Sally Refinance Services. Body, Ms. Whitaker. Your student loan account, principal balance $28,000, opened August of 2020, is 90 days past due. I read the sentence 3 times. I had not taken a student loan. I had scholarship money at Cornell. I had a stipend. I had my Northlink internship the summer after junior year. I had never signed for a private loan in my life. I put the coffee down. I called the number in the email. A woman answered. She said, "Bright Sally, this is Denise. How may I help you?" I said, "Denise, I am calling because I received an email about a loan I did not take." Denise asked for my social. I gave it. Denise typed. Denise said, "Ma'am, the loan was originated August 12th, 2020. Address of record, 47 Elmwood Drive, Poughkeepsie. Disbursement went to a Chase checking account ending in 8809. I do not have a Chase checking account." I said, "Denise, I did not open this loan. I did not sign for it. I did not receive that money." Denise said, in a careful voice, "Ma'am, I can note the account, but you will need to file a formal identity theft report with the Federal Trade Commission before we can freeze." I said, "Thank you, Denise." I hung up. I sat down on my kitchen floor, my back against the cabinet. I did not cry. I did not scream. I said out loud in my empty apartment, "Someone stole my name, and someone let them." That was the day I stopped calling it a misunderstanding. So I pulled the report that afternoon, all 3 bureaus, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. I printed it, 34 pages. I sat at my kitchen table on Bank Street and I read every line. Line 6, Capital One Venture, opened April 2020. Line 11, Citi, Double Cash, opened April 2020. The Chase Freedom opened in June 2017. Every account, same address, 47 Elmwood Drive. Total balance at peak, $52,000 in revolving credit debt in my name. I sat with the report on my kitchen table for 40 minutes, and I did not move. My coffee got cold. The radiator ticked. A truck backed up on Bank Street. 52,000. Nearly 6 years. 3 cards. 1 loan. I did not cry. I did not because I understood that if I cried, I gave up the only thing I had, which was, they did not know I knew. My mother did not know. My sister did not know. My father did not know. Nobody knew that I was reading page 34 of the report on Bank Street. I understood, sitting on that kitchen floor, that the only weapon I had was silence. If I cried, they would hear it. If I called, they would spin it. If I told a friend other than Whitney, it would leak. I stood up. I made a fresh pot of coffee. I put the report in a manila folder. I put the folder in the bottom of a filing cabinet under a stack of tax returns. I locked the cabinet. Then I went to work. That day, at the Northlink office on the 42nd floor, I ran a growth funnel review meeting. I laughed at something Ryan said. I approved a Q2 budget line item. I signed off on a hire. Nobody in that room knew what I had just found in my kitchen. That was the beginning of my silence. I gave it 5 months. 2 months of learning. 2 months of the FCRA. 2 months of forums. And the FTC's identitytheft.gov site. And how a formal identity theft report gets filed. Then on a Tuesday in August, I called my mother. I called from the couch in West Village. I was in socks. A pot of pasta water rattled on the stove behind me. I said, "Mom, someone opened 3 credit cards and a $28,000 student loan in my name at your address. Do you know anything about that?" There was silence. 6 seconds. My mother said, "Chloe." I said, "Yes." She said, "Your sister is your sister." I said, "Mom." She said, "She needed credit to live. She could not get credit because she is who she is. You could. She used yours. Money is money. What is the harm?" I said nothing. She said, "You went to Cornell." She did not. What does she have? You are the older. You were born as the older, Chloe. Born as the older. You give. Get over yourself. I hung up. I sat with my phone in my hand and I did not move. The pasta water boiled over. I stood, turned off the burner, and watched the steam disappear. Then my phone lit up. Family group text. Ping. My little sister, I found out later that afternoon, had been in a private chat with my mother earlier that day. Kayla had meant to forward a screenshot of an old text to my mother privately. She had forwarded it to the full family group by accident. The screenshot was of a text from my mother, sent August of 2023, sent to my sister. It said, "Don't say anything to the bank, honey. Your sister needs to keep her mouth shut, or you will actually go to jail. She needs to give. She was born as the older. That means she carries." I screenshotted it before Kayla deleted at 7:08. That was the moment I stopped being a victim and became a witness. I made a folder that night. I named it M, 6 years. Inside were 3 subfolders: financial, family, timeline. I made a ledger. Column 1, date. Column 2, institution. Column 3, account number, last 4. Column 4, opening balance. Column 5, what she bought. I did not know yet what she had bought, but I built the column anyway. I built the column because I was going to fill it. I subscribed to Experian Premium Credit Monitoring, $24.99 a month. I did not begrudge the money. It was a subscription to my own life. Every alert that came in, I logged. Every letter that arrived at Elmwood Drive that I had photographed at Christmas, I filed. I stopped calling my mother. I did not tell her I was stopping. I just stopped. My father called once in late May, after my call with Marion. I let it ring. He did not call again. Kayla did not call, not once. That silence was the loudest thing. For 2 months, I did not lift my head from the ledger. I worked at Northlink during the day. I ran growth reviews. I approved hires. I planned Q3 targets. At night, at my kitchen table on Bank Street, I filled columns. By October 2023, the ledger was 30 pages. I looked at it one night before bed. I closed it. I said out loud in my empty living room, "Not yet." I did not hire a lawyer yet. Not because I thought I could solve it alone. I did not. But I wanted to understand exactly what had been taken before I handed the story to anyone else. I had spent too long letting my mother tell me what was real. For weeks after work, I read the plain language guidance for people whose identities had been used. I learned how to place freezes, how to dispute accounts, how to preserve records, and how an FTC identity theft report could help a victim ask credit bureaus and lenders to correct fraudulent information. I learned that a report would not make 6 years disappear. It would start a process. There would be forms, calls, documents, questions I would have to answer more than once. So I made the answers easy to find. I kept the reports from all 3 bureaus. I kept the dates. I kept the account numbers. I kept the photos of the envelopes from my father's drawer. I kept the screenshot my mother never meant me to see. I made copies of every statement I could get and stored them in 3 places. I did not need a secret legal strategy. I needed a record so clean that nobody could call me confused. By October, I knew what I had, what I still needed, and what I would do when I was ready. I sat on my couch one night with the ledger open beside me. On the last page, beneath the total, I wrote February. I would file then, not because I had forgiven them, because I was done letting their silence decide the date. In February 2024, on a cold morning, I sat at my kitchen table and completed my identity theft report at identitytheft.gov. I typed my name, my date of birth, every account, every date, every dollar, every screenshot. I attached my mother's text, the one Kayla had sent to the family group by mistake. I attached the photographs of the 3 unopened Chase envelopes from my father's office. At 9:41, I clicked submit. The site returned a case number CFR 202-43891. I printed the confirmation and the report and placed both in the folder beside my ledger. Then I sent dispute packages by certified mail to Chase, Capital One, Citi, and the Bright Sally loan servicer. I did not tell my family. I did not tell anyone but myself what day I had finally chosen. After that came waiting. Every time my phone buzzed, I thought it might be another denial. Every time the mail arrived, I looked at the return address before I opened it. I kept working. I kept the folder closed. By April, the 3 card accounts were removed from my report. By May, the loan was marked disputed. My score began to climb. 650 by June, 710 by August. It moved in little steps, like a person who had been in bed for years learning to walk. I did not celebrate any of it. They still thought I was the older one who owed. Whitney came over on a Saturday in May of 2024. She sat on my couch and I told her everything. The case number, the dispute letters, the score climbing, the folder beside my ledger. She listened without moving. When I was done, she said, "Chloe, don't file the criminal report yet." I said, "I have the case number." She said, "I know, but listen to me. Wait for the moment they need you. The moment they need you is the moment they cannot stop. That is when you send it, not before. Because before they can spin. During, they can't. There is a difference between being right and being the door." I looked at her. She said, "You have carried this long enough. Wait for the right moment." I nodded. I did not know then that the wait would be a full extra year. If you have ever had to sit still while someone in your own family was stealing from you, drop one word in the comments. The word that describes what you felt the first time you knew for sure. I read every one of them. And what happens next in this story might make you predict how it ends. So tell me in the comments, when Chloe finally does send the email, who do you think screams first? The mother or the sister? August 2024. I drove to Poughkeepsie for the first time in almost 2 years. I did not stop at Elmwood Drive. I drove to a Chase branch off Main Street. I parked in the small lot. I walked in with my FTC report and the folder under my arm. I asked the reception clerk to speak with a branch manager about records connected to an account opened in my name. Her name was Angela Marconi. She was 45, brown-eyed, glasses on a chain. She invited me into a small room and closed the door. I said, "I reported identity theft in February. I need to know what the bank retained from August 2020 when money from a loan I never took reached an account connected to my name." Angela typed for a long time. She read my report. Then she looked at me. "Miss Whitaker," she said, "I cannot promise video from every year. But after your dispute, our records team located a short lobby clip and an account service record from August 12th, 2020. She came back with a laptop and a legal pad. A young woman in a hoodie walked to the counter. She gave the teller information. She signed a form. She left. Angela paused the image at minute 8. "Is that Kayla?" she asked. I said, "Yes." Angela closed the laptop. She rested her hand on it. "I remember her coming in around then," she said. She told staff she was handling things for her older sister. I cannot tell you what she said at every visit, but I can tell you what this record shows, and I can put it in writing. I said nothing. Angela picked up her legal pad. "Then let's start there," she said. By December of 2024, the packet was done. 8 files, 63 pages. File 1, the FTC Identity Theft Report, case number SUE. FR202-43891, filed February. File 2. 3 bank statements. Chase. Capital One. City. 6-year history of every purchase Kayla had made on my name. Nail salons. Airline tickets. A Peloton. 6 months of DoorDash. Rent to a girl named Bree in Kingston that I did not know. File 3. The Bright Sally loan documents. Signature line. The signature on the line was my mother's handwriting. I had samples of her handwriting from a decade of birthday cards. I attached a comparison. File 4. The screenshot of my mother's text. Sent August 2023. Sent to Kayla, saying, "Don't say anything to the bank, honey, or you will actually go to jail." File 5. The 4 Chase envelopes I had photographed in my father's office at 2 a.m, Christmas of 2022. Addressed to me. Unopened. File 6. Angela Marconi's written statement, the branch record she reviewed, and her contact information for investigators. File 7. The Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion reports, printed and highlighted. File 8. My ledger. 30 pages. Every dollar. Whitney came over one December night and read it. She did not speak for 20 minutes. Then she looked up and said quietly, "Chloe, this is enough to bury the 3 of them." I said, "I know." She said, "Are you okay?" I said, "No, but I will be." March of 2025. My credit was 740. My blocks had cleared. My report was clean. The director slot at Northlink opened, and Ryan Delacroix, the VP of Growth, walked into my glass office one morning at 10 and put a card on my desk. The card said, "You are the person for this job. I already told them. It is yours. I did the interview. I said the right things. I hit the last round panel." Elise called me that Wednesday and said, "Chloe, Director of Growth, effective in 2 weeks." I hung up the phone. I looked out the window at Bryant Park. I put my hand on the desk to steady it. I did not tell my family. I did not tell them that day. I did not tell them that week. Kayla found the promotion post on Northlink's LinkedIn 2 days later. My mother did not book flights right away. She waited until the 3rd week of April, when Kayla had been out of work long enough to make my promotion look useful to her. On the Wednesday night before they arrived, I sat in my apartment and looked at the folder on the bottom shelf of the filing cabinet in my hallway closet. 6 years, 63 pages, 8 files. I did not open it. I did not need to. I knew where every page was. Whitney texted at 11 p.m. She said, "Are you ready?" I said, "Almost. I want to hear it from her first, in person, one time." Whitney said, "Then you send." I said, "Then I send." The dinner at my apartment, April 6:50, at the door. I have told you the outside of that dinner. Now I will tell you the inside. When my mother stepped into my apartment in the too warm coat and smiled at the ceiling molding, I was already at 0 degrees inside. I was breathing very evenly. I was hearing every syllable of every word she said the way you hear a taped confession played back at a hearing. When she said, "Kayla, 2, dinner your place, 7, I had already run in my head the exact path from the door of my apartment to the filing cabinet in the closet. When Kayla asked, "Chloe, can you get me into Northlink?" I heard underneath it Angela Marconi's voice saying, "Every time. She said she was you." when Marion stood up and said, "You are cold, Chloe. You are selfish." I heard, underneath it, my mother's own text. She needs to give. She was born as the older. When Kevin looked into his lap, I heard the sound of the 4 chase envelopes hitting each other in the drawer at 2 a.m. in his office, when my mother poured herself a second glass of wine and said, in the voice she uses at PTA meetings, "Kayla is very talented at Excel, you know. She has really been trying." I heard my own credit score dropping from 780 to 540 in one long, slow whistle in my head, when my sister put a piece of my roast chicken in her mouth and said, "Chloe, this is really good." I heard the DoorDash charge from June of 2021 on my city statement. $19.87. Sushi, delivered to a girl named Bree in Kingston. When my father cleared his throat like he was going to speak and then did not, I heard him at Christmas 2022 saying to my mother in the kitchen with the swinging door not quite closed, "Marion, what is this?" And my mother saying back, "Kevin, don't make it a thing." I had been in the hallway holding my coffee cup. I had heard every word. I did not say any of that. I said one word. No. I said it once at the table, and I said it once again to myself as I closed the refrigerator door in the kitchen. The 3 of them left 20 minutes later. My mother's coat over her arm. My father's paper bag still on my counter with the airport wine untouched. That was the last time all 3 of them stood in my apartment. The next morning, I opened LinkedIn. I found Kayla's account. It had a photo of her in a blazer that used to be mine in front of a rented backdrop. Her headline said, "Business Professional, Customer Service Specialist, SUNY New Paltz alum." She had not finished New Paltz. I scrolled her posts. One from March. It said, "Excited for interviews at Raise Up Logistics next month. New chapter. Thank you to everyone who believed in me. Hashtag New Beginnings. Raise Up Logistics. Newburgh, New York. Regional trucking and freight." I opened Indeed. I found their posting for a customer service coordinator and scrolled to the compliance section. It said background check required, including credit review, through Medcare Background Inc. Medcare Background. Their intake address was public. The posting named a Raise Up HR manager, Marion Robles. Same first name as my mother. It felt like a joke. I made a note in my phone. 2 email addresses, vendor and employer. I did not send anything yet. On May 26, Kayla completed her second interview. That evening, she posted a mirror selfie and wrote, "New chapter, trusting the process." Whitney texted, "Update?" I said, "Second interview done. Their background review goes through Medcare Background." Whitney said, "Give it a few days, let the process reach her." I said, "I know." I set my phone on the counter. I looked at the folder on the closet shelf. I did not open it. I ate leftover chicken over the sink. I went to sleep at 9:30. The weight felt like a coiled thing. But I had waited 2 years for the truth to reach the right room. Waiting one more week was nothing. Wednesday, June 4th. Whitney came over after work. I said, "Whit, it's time." She sat at my kitchen table. I sat across from her. I said, "Kayla finished round 2 on May 26. Mom told me this morning that Raise Up is going to save her, that the family is going to heal." My mother used the word heal, Whitney. Whitney said, "Draft." I said, "The draft." She said, "Chloe, Do not write angry. Do not write like someone settling a score. Write like a fact sheet. Attach the record and let the paper speak. Anger reads as vendetta. Facts read as compliance. I said, yes. She said, 1-page body, 8 attachments, no more. I said, yes. She said, recipients. I said, Medcare background intake, raise up HR, Poughkeepsie, PD fraud unit, as a supplement to my existing report. She said, send tonight. Quietly. Then do not answer the first call. I said, I won't. She stood up. She hugged me at the door. She said, when it lands, answer nothing until they scream. I said, I won't. She left. I sat down at my laptop. I opened a new email. I opened a fresh window at 1:47 a.m. I typed a subject line. I did not use emotion. I typed, supplement to identity theft report, Kayla Marie Whitaker, Raise Up Logistics candidate. I typed 3 addresses in the to field. Intake at Medcare Background Inc., HR at Raise Up Logistics, Marion Robles. Fraud unit at Poughkeepsie Police Department. As a supplement to the report I had already filed. I did not CC anyone. The body of the email was 4 sentences long. I typed them slowly. Please add the attached materials to the background review of Kayla Marie Whitaker. The attachments document fraudulent accounts opened between 2017 and 2022 using my name and social security number, including a $28,000 loan bearing a signature I did not write. They also include my identity theft report, credit records, a written statement from a Chase branch manager, and records connected to the account activity. Please preserve this material and contact me or the Poughkeepsie Police Department if additional documentation is required. Best regards, Chloe M. Whitaker. I attached 8 files, 63 pages. I read the email twice. I changed nothing. I did not add a threat. I did not add an emotion word. I did not name my mother. I did not try to explain my childhood. I let the attachments say it. The clock on my laptop said 2:09 a.m. I hovered the cursor over send. I thought about my mother's text that August saying, she needs to give. I thought about 8-year-old me handing over the book. I thought about Angela pausing the CCTV at minute 8. I clicked send. I sat still for 3 minutes. Whitney texted at 2:13. Done? I typed, done. I closed the laptop. I got up. I drank a glass of water. I went to bed. I did not check email in the morning. I got up at 7. I ran 3 miles on the West Side Highway. I stopped at a bagel place I liked, and I sat outside, and I ate a plain bagel with a fried egg. I watched a small dog carry a stick that was too long down Bank Street. I laughed at that. I went to work. I ran a Q2 planning meeting from 10 to 12. I ate lunch with Ryan in the break room. He asked how my family visit went. I said, it went. He said, good weekend. I said, yes. 12 days passed. The first 10 days, nothing happened. No call from Kayla, no call from Marion, no email. The silence was heavy in the way silence is heavy when a bomb has been dropped, and the sound has not yet reached your ear. On the 11th day, Kayla posted on Instagram a photo of herself on the porch of Elmwood Drive with a caption that said, big news soon, trusting the process. 2 coffee cup emojis. My mother liked the photo. I looked at it for 10 seconds. I closed the app. I said out loud to my empty apartment, "The paper's moving. She just doesn't feel it yet." I went to sleep at 10. On the 12th day at 11:08 in the morning, I was in a growth funnel review meeting with 6 people at the big table on the 42nd floor. My phone rang. I did not recognize the number, but the area code was 845, Poughkeepsie. I stepped out into the hallway. I picked up 8 years of fraud, 1 click, 63 pages, 12 days. Then I heard it. What did you send? They won't even let me explain. What did you do? That was Kayla, screaming. Her voice was breaking. Her breath was in ragged, wet spurts. She was crying and screaming at the same time, and I could hear my mother behind her in the background saying, "Give me the phone, Kayla. Give me the phone." Kayla went on. "They pulled the offer. They pulled the offer. They said someone sent them the file, the whole file. They wouldn't even let me talk. Chloe, what did you send them? What did you send them?" I did not answer right away. I let her cry. I stood in the hallway of the 42nd floor of my glass office. There was a print on the wall of the Chrysler building. I looked at the print. I could see, in the glass, a faint reflection of myself. I looked calm. I did not feel calm. I felt like water. Kayla screamed, "Chloe, are you there? Are you there?" I said one time, one line, in the flat voice I had spent 2 years learning to use. "Kayla, you knew from the beginning." She stopped crying for a beat. In that beat, I heard her breath. In her breath, I heard the whole thing. Then she screamed, "Chloe, I am your sister." I said, "Yes." She said, "You would ruin me." I said, "Kayla, you ruined me first." She sobbed. I said, "I have to go." I hung up. I walked back into the meeting. Ryan looked at me. I said, "Family?" He said, "Okay." I sat down. I opened the deck. I continued the presentation. 20 minutes later, my mother called. She left 3 voicemails. The first was a scream. The second was a threat. The third was a whisper. "Chloe, I will not forgive you. Do not come home. Do you understand me? Do not come home." I did not listen to them until the following morning, and I only listened once. At 2:30 in the afternoon, my father called. I let it ring 6 times, then I picked up. I said, "Dad." He did not speak for a long time. Then his voice cracked, and I had never in my life heard my father cry. He said, "Chloe." I said, "Dad." He said, "I saw the envelopes. Christmas 2022. In the drawer in my own office, I saw them. I said to your mother, Marion, what is this?" And she said, "Kevin, don't make it a thing." And I did not make it a thing. Chloe, I did not make it a thing. Chloe, I am so sorry. I did not speak. He said, "I know it doesn't matter. I know it is too late. I know. I just needed you to know that I know." I said, "Dad." He said, "Yes." I told him, "Nicole's wedding is July 19th. Tell Mom I'm coming." His breath caught. "Chloe, please don't do this at Nicole's wedding." "Nicole already knows," I said. "I am going to tell the truth. You can sit beside me, sit at Mom's table, or leave. You can choose." For a second, he said nothing. Then he whispered, "Chloe, Highfield House Resort," I said. "Rhinebeck." I hung up. I sat still in my hallway on the 42nd floor. Then I went back into the meeting and I approved a Q3 campaign. July 19th, 2025. Highfield House Resort, Rhinebeck. The reception tent stood on a green lawn that sloped toward the rose garden. 60 guests, I know because I counted. I came in a navy dress. Whitney came in a gold one. We had discussed this. Whitney wore gold because Nicole had told her to wear gold. Nicole had also told me to come. Nicole had told me to bring Whitney. Nicole met me on the path from the parking lot. She was in her wedding dress, mascara already smudged from something one of her bridesmaids had said. When she saw me, she stopped in the middle of the gravel path. "My mom got the email," she said. Aunt Marion forwarded it in one of her rages to everyone, including me. I read all 63 pages. I had not known that. Something in my chest loosened, only a little, as if a knot had finally been given room to breathe. Nicole put both hands on my shoulders. "Tonight, you say what you need to say at my wedding. I am not letting you carry this out on the sidewalk. Do you hear me?" I looked at her for a long moment. "Do you hear me, Chloe?" she asked. "Yes," I said. Then she turned to Whitney. "Keep her hand under the table. Ready?" Whitney nodded. "I will." The reception was dinner service under the tent. I was at table 7, Whitney next to me, cousin Meredith across, Marion and Kevin at table 3 near the front, near the wedding party. Kayla sat with them. Kayla wore a soft pink dress that did not fit her right in the shoulders. She had done her hair. She smiled at people. She pretended nothing had happened. At the end of dinner, the DJ said, "The family would like to say a few words." Kayla stood up. She took the microphone from the DJ. She smoothed her dress. She smiled. She said, "Nicole, I love you. I love you. And I want to say family is everything. Everyone at this table knows that our family has been going through a hard time. Ups, downs. But family is everything. Right, Nicole?" Nicole did not answer. Nicole's mother, Aunt Marge, clapped once. Marion clapped. Kayla said, "So, Nicole, now we are all so happy for you. Family is everything." She raised her champagne. Some people raised theirs, some did not. I set my napkin down on the table. Whitney touched my hand under the tablecloth. Once, 2 seconds, then let go. I stood up. I walked to the front of the tent. I did not take the microphone from Kayla. I stood 2 feet away from her. I said, in a voice that carried, "On August 12th, 2020 at 2:14 in the afternoon, a student loan for $28,000 was opened in my name at a subprime lender. I did not sign the form. I had never signed anything. The signature on the form is my mother's handwriting." Kayla's smile broke. Kayla said into the microphone, "Chloe, don't. Chloe, please. Chloe." I said, "Between June of 2017 and April of 2020, 3 credit cards were opened in my name. Chase, Capital One, Citi. Total peak balance, $52,000. Address of record, 47 Elmwood Drive. Witness who identified the person at the branch. On video, Angela Marconi. Branch manager, Chase Poughkeepsie." My mother stood up. She screamed, "Sit down, Chloe." I did not sit. I turned to the room. I raised my phone. I did not shake. I read the text. I said, "Text message, my mother. Sent August 9th, 2023 to my sister. Quote, don't say anything to the bank, honey. Your sister needs to keep her mouth shut, or you will actually go to jail. She needs to give. She was born as the older. That means she carries. End quote. The tent went dead. 8 seconds, I counted them. Then Marian threw her glass. It broke on the pole beside her. She screamed, "You are cold. You are cold. You are cold. You are." I said, "The FTC case number is CFR 202-43891, filed February of 2024. Poughkeepsie Police Department has the full evidence packet as of June. Nothing new happened tonight. I simply wanted everyone here to know why I have not been at any of your holidays." I turned, I walked away. Nicole ran to me. She put both her arms around me and she said into my ear, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Cousin Meredith stood up. She pointed at Kayla and she said, in a voice like a gavel, "Kayla, 5 years I have sent you a Christmas card. 5 years. You blocked me. You blocked me on everything. It was because of this, wasn't it? So Aunt Marian could keep the lie clean." Kayla ran to the bathroom. Aunt Marge, Nicole's mother, my father's older sister, set down her champagne flute. She stood up slowly. She walked to my mother. She did not touch her. She said in a voice that was flatter than mine, "Marian, that is my brother's daughter you tried to bury, and she carried it clean, and you dropped a glass at my daughter's wedding. Go home." Marian opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Aunt Marge said, "Now." My father did not stand up. He did not defend my mother. He sat with his face in his hands. His shoulders shook once. My mother stood alone in the middle of the tent with her broken glass at her feet. I did not look at her. I walked out onto the lawn. The July air was warm and clean. Somewhere below, the Hudson was still moving. Whitney followed me. She stood next to me. She did not speak. I stood there for a long time. If someone in your life ever taught you that being the older one meant swallowing wrong forever, I want you to write something in the comments. Not for me. For the 17-year-old version of you who first heard that sentence in your own house. I read every one of them. Because some family rules aren't rules. They're chains. And some chains you file down slowly for years. Then, one summer, at a wedding, you finally take them off. By the end of July, the paperwork had turned into consequences. Kayla was charged with misdemeanor identity fraud. There was no jail sentence, but the record stayed with her. A 7-year ban on opening new credit, $52,000 in restitution on a payment plan, and 200 hours of community service at the Poughkeepsie Public Library. FTC investigators had begun questioning Marian about the forged signature on the $28,000 loan. She was also facing a civil claim connected to that signature. She hired counsel I did not know. That process was still moving. My father emptied $32,000 from his retirement account and sent it to me to cover the $28,000 loan and part of what it had cost me. There was no note. I sent one line back. Received. I did not send more. My credit score reached 780 in September. Ryan Delacroix, Northlink's VP of Growth, wrote in an internal email I read once, "Chloe handled a personal matter with a class that speaks to her integrity. Please respect her privacy." The Northlink People team sent me a form to file the incident on record. I filed it. 2 weeks later, I received an internal memo announcing an updated policy protecting employees from family-driven third-party harassment during hiring cycles. The memo did not name me. It did not have to. Angela Marconi sent me a card. It came to my office, handwritten. It said only, "Miss Whitaker, you did right. I hope you rest now." Nicole called me every Sunday for 6 weeks, just to talk about the honeymoon, about the caterer, about a rug she was buying for the guest room. She did not once bring up the wedding. Aunt Marge sent me a photograph in the mail. It was of me, at 10, sitting on the back porch of her house, on Route 9, reading a book. She wrote on the back, "Chloe, you have always been the reader. You have always seen us. I am sorry it took me 62 years to see you. Aunt Marge." I did not go to Poughkeepsie. I did not call Marion. I did not call Kayla. I did not call anyone in that family except my father once, on his birthday, to say, "I got your card, Dad. Thank you." That was all. October, Bank Street, West Village. 1 bedroom on the 2nd floor, big window, late afternoon. The broker slid the papers across the closing table. She handed me a pen. She said, "Congratulations, Miss Whitaker. Ready?" I looked at the signature line. I picked up the pen. I signed Chloe M. Whitaker in one clean stroke. Not curved, not scared, straight, flat, mine. The broker smiled and handed me the key. I held it. I looked out the window at the light coming down on Bank Street. For 8 years, my mother taught my little sister how to write my name on doors I had never walked through. Today, in my own city, I signed my name on the door of the first place that was truly mine. My hand did not shake, and that is all the justice I needed